So one of the things we want to do then is I'm going to tie this all together for you guys, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of these things. But one of the things I like to start off with is I always like to do a little history stuff. And so I think you guys already know this kind of stuff, but I think it's important just to kind of recover it again, just to kind of give you some information. But if you think about it, from the start of the medieval times to up to the Revolution, when you had those master craftsmen, they really understood the value of safety with their folks because they invested a lot of time with their apprentices, didn't they? And so if they lost an apprentice to an injury or something, now they have to start over. And on top of that, that really affects their production because they're not producing that much in the first place. It's on the other side over here. The idea behind this is that they kind of understood that value. They kind of lost that value, however, when the Industrial Revolution started, because then we had to start producing much faster, right? More and everything else. And so what this actually created was a pretty appalling rate of injuries that we had within businesses. So this really started to affect us as far as we were losing lots of folks. And then this, of course, created the safety professional, or my occupation, if you will. So off of that occupation, and again, we started looking at things, and so what was it about 1912, 1913, the early 1900s? This is where workers' comp started coming into play. This is also where, as safety folks, they started coming a little bit more into paying attention to those injury rates, if you will. And so from 1912 to 2006, this is out of the National Safety Council's book from 2009, unintentional injury death per 100,000 population dropped 57%. Now what that means for you guys is that's just not work related. That's the whole entire population that we saw that 57% drop in. So what that means is the things that you do at work is having an effect on those folks when they go home at the same time. Okay, that people are watching out for themselves. They're applying some of the same principles and theories and safety things that they do at work. They're doing that at home. Okay, so one of the things to also keep in mind that one of the best tools that we have in our toolbox is to do incident investigation. Now, this is where we're going to start breaking this up a little bit. We're going to approach this just a hair different. Normally, we'd talk about accident investigation, right? Isn't that what you normally hear is accident investigation? The difference is that I'm going to point out to you that we need to expand that out. And the reason that we want to do incident investigation versus accident investigation is because accident investigation limits us. So let's talk about this, okay? So to start off with, first of all, we want to identify the problems before they become accidents. That's why you want to do incident investigation, because you want to identify those near misses, and we're going to talk about those kind of things. But you want to identify things before they become accidents so that you can fix the problem before you have problems, right? Prevent reoccurrence. Okay, now you've had the major injury, the major accident. Now we can take that information and we're going to take a negative and turn it into a positive by identifying those root problems or those root causes, and now make it so that that doesn't reoccur, okay? And then kind of dovetailing on what we've just spent the last hour and a half talking about, or the last 2 hours, is basically that fraud piece, isn't it? Because you guys want to assure that, you know, you're following through, that you're making sure that when somebody reports something to you, that they're being accurate and that the information's there. So you want to make sure that you want to verify exactly what did happen in the way it was said that it happened, okay? All right, so the definition of an incident, an unfortunate, undesirable event which can disrupt the work process and can result in an injury, harm, damage, loss to persons or property. In other words, this is something that can be disruptive at work. Depending on what the severity of that, though, depends on what might happen, okay? So in some cases, if it's a major accident could have major injury attached to it or something along those lines, big dollars assigned to it, property damage, whatever it might be, or it might be just that near miss. And the near miss is what we want to pay attention to, okay? Because there's a whole lot more near misses than there are actual full-blown accidents, okay? 98% of all incidences are preventable because only 2% are what you call acts of nature or acts of God or whatever you want to call it, but we still have control over how we'd respond to that, wouldn't we? So I have guys up here on the roof that are going to put a flagpole on top of the hotel here, and they see the storm front move in, and they decide to continue working, and they get hit by lightning. Was that unpreventable? No, it was preventable. We could have done things, they could have taken precautions to make sure that didn't happen. So in a lot of cases, this is what we're talking about. So how many people are familiar with the cruise liner? Now, you talk about things that are preventable, right? Captain leaves the bridge. They thought they'd take a different route so that someone on deck could wave to someone on the beach. How expensive was that wave, right? Not counting the deaths and everything else, but the cost of the whole cruise line, okay? So if you take a look at these kind of things, this is what we want to talk about, is that 98% are preventable. So let's find out how we can prevent these things from happening.